Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of round 1 of Norway Chess 2019. The sponsor is Altibox, as you can see here on the logo. I'm doing daily videos on the tournament as this will be a very exciting tournament, and that's because of the format. Norway Chess is experimenting. First there's the time control, each player will have 2 hours on the clock for the first 40 moves. No increment in the first 40 moves, and after move 40 only 10 seconds increment till the end of the game, which means that after move 40 there will be permanent time pressure. This is a screenshot from the regulations I picked up from the website. If the classical game ends in a draw, then as you can see an Armageddon game will be played with 10 minutes for white and 7 minutes for black, with an increment of 3 seconds, but only starting from move 61. As is common in Armageddon, black has draw odds, which means that black wins if the game ends in a draw. You can see there stipulation number 5, players are not allowed to agree on a draw until after move 30, so they cannot play a quick draw in a classical game to save their energy for the Armageddon game. The scoring system is also new. If you win the classical game you get 2 points, if you lose you get 0 points. If the classical game is a draw and you win the Armageddon game, so either win with white or win or draw with black, then you get 1.5 points for that round. If you lose, you get still half a point for the draw you made in the classical game. We had a blitz game on Monday the 3rd of June, I made a separate video on that, and on Tuesday the 4th of June this was the pairing for round 1. We had Carlsen against Anand, the current world champion against his predecessor, Mamedyarov Caruana, Ding against So, Vachier-Lagrave against Yu, and Aronian against Grishuk. And as you can see, all 5 classical games ended in a draw, which meant Armageddon had to be played in each of the games. White did very well. Carlsen beat Anand, Mamedyarov beat Caruana, and Aronian beat Grishuk in a crazy game where both players had only a few seconds left at the end, and Grishuk overstepped the time limit first. Black did well in the Vachier-Lagrave against Yu clash. Yu won the game with black. That leaves the Ding-Liren against Wesley So Armageddon game, which I will show you in this video. Ding had been white in the classical game and the players kept the same color for the Armageddon game. c4 from Ding, e6, knight c3, d5, d4 and knight f6. We have a queen's gambit. Ding played the exchange variation, and here e takes d5 is the main move, but knight takes d5 as played by Wesley So is also possible. The knight was kicked. Knight takes c3, b takes c3. White has a mighty pawn center, but black is straight away going to chip away at that center with c5. Rook b1, bishop e7, both players were blitzing out these first moves. As said, white had 10 minutes on the clock, black had 7 minutes. No increment until move 61. Knight f3, castling from So, bishop c4, a6, both players were still blitzing out the moves. a4 to stop b5, queen c7, bishop back to e2, b6, castling from white, c takes d4, c takes d4 and bishop b7. Ding-Liren said afterwards that he was lucky as he had checked this specific line just before this game was played. He made it sound he had actually looked at this line in the break between the classical game and the Armageddon game. Bishop d3 protecting the e4 pawn, which was attacked by the bishop on b7. Knight c6 developing, and rook b3. This was a move that Ding had prepared, he said after the game. It's a strong attacking move, he said. And Ding said that his strategy for this tournament is to play solid in a classical game and prepare something aggressive for a potential Armageddon game. Knight a5 hitting the rook. Rook step back to b2 and knight back to c6. And now rook to d2. Logical play, said Judith Polgar in the live broadcast. White will want to put a bishop on b2, and after the knight comes to b4, put that other bishop on b1, and that's exactly what we see happening in this game. Rook fd8. Judith Polgar said it's important that black stops the d4, d5 push from white. We're 17 moves into the game. So had used a minute here, a few seconds more than Ding, which was good news for the Chinese player because he started the game with 3 minutes more on the clock. Bishop b2, Rook ac8 was finishing his development, and d5 after all. Ding said afterwards, I have to attack. I have to win this game. A draw is no good. He had to go for it. Black cannot win a pawn straight away with e takes d5, e takes d5 and rook takes d5, because then there is bishop takes h7 check, and the rook on d5 is not sufficiently protected. King takes, rook takes d5, white has won an exchange. So did not fall for that. After d5 he played knight b4, attacking the bishop on d3, and that bishop dropped back to b1. Now So took on d5, and Ding answered with e5. Judith Polgar explained this is a very typical breakthrough in the center, as bishop b2 was blocked by the pawn on d4 and now has more potential on the long diagonal. g6, defending against any bishop takes h7 shots, which would ruin black's pawn defense around his king. Rook e1 and d4, very instructive move. Wesley So is giving back the pawn straight away to activate his pieces. This bishop now has more scope, and he may use the d5 square for one of his pieces. e6, Ding keeps going forward. The engine wants to take here, and after rook takes e6, plays a move like bishop d5 and says black is okay. But Wesley So did not take on e6, he played f6. Knight takes d4, winning the pawn back that white had sacrificed, and knight c6, trying to swap the knights. We're on move 24, and Ding at 8 minutes left, and Wesley So only 4. It's horrible to have to defend this position with only 4 minutes on the clock till move 60. Here Ding thought for a while and found the best move in the position. Look at this move. Knight d4 to f5. What a move, sacrificing a piece. The piece was not taken. Let's see what would have happened if Wesley So had taken the piece. G takes f5. Ding said afterwards that he would have played rook d7, and that is indeed a strong move, but he has even better. Instead of rook d7 he can play queen h5. Very strong move. White has a winning position here. I will not show you many variations. I will just show you what white is threatening after queen h5. Let's make a very bad move for black just to show the threat. Let's play a5. Then there is queen f7 check, king h8, bishop takes f5, threatening checkmate with queen takes h7. You can still play bishop f8. Now the black queen is covering the h7 square, but now the f6 pawn is hanging. Bishop takes f6 check, bishop g7 only move, and checkmate with the bishop. So that is the threat that white has after queen h5, and black really does not have any good defense against this. So queen h5 would have been a winning move here. But as said, after knight f5, Wesley So probably smelled that taking the piece would lead to his downfall, so he didn't take and he took on d2. Knight takes e7 check from Ding, an in-between move before taking back the rook. And as Ding said himself, I'm removing a very good defender of black's position, the dark squared bishop, and now black's position becomes vulnerable. And that's an understatement. Queen takes e7, white takes back on d2, king g7, and queen f4. White is going to attack the black king with all his 4 remaining pieces. Rook f8, trying to defend his position. Judith Polgar said that the e6 pawn especially is a real thorn in black's side. h4, more pieces are coming into the attack, and bishop c8 trying to defend. Here Polgar gave a nice attacking idea with rook e3, bringing the rook into the attack and also making bishop a3 a possibility. That bishop will then be protected by the rook on e3. A multi-purpose move, very instructive. Ding did not go for rook e3, he played h5. What happens if you take the pawn here with bishop takes e6? Well, then white wins. I'll show you one variation. H takes g6, h takes, queen g3, attacking the g6 square with both queen and bishop. Queen f7 to protect the g6 square, but then rook takes e6, deflecting black's queen. Queen takes e6 and mate in 2 moves. Just to show you one variation to show you how strong white's attack is. After h5, So decided not to take on e6. He played knight e5, bringing the knight closer to the defense of the king and blocking the diagonal of the dark squared bishop. Here h6 would have been a good move, and again I'll show you a variation. King g8, then rook takes e5, f takes e5, queen takes e5, threatening checkmate on h8. So you have to take on e6 to give the king a flight square on f7, but then white still wins. Queen h8 check, king f7, queen takes h7 check, king can flee, but after queen takes g6 check, white has a winning position. Black has an extra exchange, but the power of the queen and the two bishops and this far advanced h-pawn is too much for black to handle. The engine gives +5 for white here. So that's a variation after knight e5 and then h6 check. But Ding took on e5 straight away, and that's also good. F takes e5, queen takes e5 check, and if you now, for example, interpose the rook, that doesn't really help. Let's again look at a variation. Bishop a2 is a nice move, protecting the e6 pawn, and there's really not much for black to do. Let's play b5. Then the g pawn comes up. g5 is a threat. This rook is pinned. You can still try and play h6, but then g5 anyway. H takes, queen takes, bishop b7. There's really nothing else. And then queen takes g6 check. This rook is still pinned, and white wins here. There's a forced mate after this. Again, showing you this variation to show you how strong white's attack is. After queen takes e5 check, Wesley So did not interpose the rook. He played the king to h6, trying to find safety for his king on the h-file, but there's no safe place for the black king. Ding played h takes g6, h takes, and queen h2 check, and the black king is going to get checkmated. King g5, queen g3 check, and Wesley So resigned. The black king indeed gets checkmated. Let's have a look. King h5, queen takes g6 check, king h4, g3 check, king h3, queen h5 check, and you can only interpose the queen, and this is checkmate. So after queen g3 check, Wesley So resigned, and Ding Liren had won a wonderful game. Very energetic and aggressive play from Ding Liren. We saw some wonderful sacrifices and some very nice mating combinations. Wesley So did not get a chance in this game. A picture of the handshake from the Ding So game. You can see those menacing bishops there on b1 and b2, and the white queen on g3, and the exposed black king on g5. You can also see the clock. Ding still had 4.5 minutes left, and Wesley So only 1.5 minutes, and we were only on move 35. If he had made it till move 60, he would have had 1.5 minutes for the next 25 moves. So these are the full results of the first round of Norway Chess 2019. 5 draws in a classical game and 5 decided games in the Armageddon. The pairing for round 2, which will be played on Wednesday the 5th of June. Aaron against Carlsen, Yu against Ding, the old China clash. Caruana Vachier-Lagrave, Anand Mamedyarov, and Grishuk against So. I will be here after the round to tell you what happened. The standings after the first round, very unusual sight to see 5 players with 1.5 points after 1 round played, but that is the scoring system of this experiment. The 5 players who lost the Armageddon game still get half a point for the draw in the classical game. Hope you enjoyed this video and that you will keep following Norway Chess with me on Chess to Impress. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. Hope to see you for round 2. Thank you for watching.